All right, ladies and gentlemen, the painting that I chose for you to critique or read is called The Oath of the Horatii. It was painted by Jacques-Louis David in 1784. It is an oil painting. It depicts a specific legend, but I will not go into detail on that because I'm looking forward to reading your responses. It's really cool. It's one of my favorite paintings in all of creation, to be honest. And it is the one that I always use when I teach this lesson. Uh, what's really cool, okay, this is hanging in Paris, France, in the Louvre, which is a very, probably the most famous art museum in the entire world. And the painting itself is 129 inches, about 130 inches by 167 inches. So it's a little bit more than 10 feet by math I don't want to do right now. It's a very large painting, and there is a lot of very interesting stuff going on in the painting. And in a little bit, I'm going to let you know what I am looking for during your particular responses. All right, so here we have the Oath of the Horatii, at least in video form. In your assignment, what I want you to do is read the artwork. You're asked specifically three things that you notice about this painting. And where do I want you to pull those questions from? Well, included with your assignment and everything that we've done so far with art critiquing is an art critique PDF file, and that's included with this assignment as well. I'm hoping that those of you that have been looking through all the assignment stuff have at least familiarized yourself with the material. If not, on the third page of the art critique file, there is all the questions that you need to ask yourself when you are critiquing it. So, when you're looking at this work of art, you might be asked to describe it, relate to it, analyze it, interpret it, or evaluate it. So, when I ask you what are three things that you notice about this painting, I want you to pick three of these questions and answer them. I would like you to use complete sentences, and grammar is not really an issue as long as I am able to read and understand what your response is. So, for example, and just keep in mind, you are not allowed to use my examples when you are answering this question for yourself. If I were to ask myself, well, what do I see in this picture? I see three soldiers reaching their hands out to a gentleman in the middle. That's one of the things that I see. If I were to ask myself, well, what interests you most about this work of art? And I would say the composition, for starters. It uses, and we talked about triangles being very important in art, it uses a triangular composition with the people on the right side sitting down, and then the gentleman in the middle, and the three soldiers on the left side. They can form a triangle from base to point, which would be roughly, excuse me, roughly at the hilt of the swords. Um, if I were to, ask myself, how do you think the artist made this work of art? Well, I spoiled that a little bit in the intro, and I said, well, this art was made with, it's a painting. It's using oil paint, and it's on a very large canvas. Now, if I were interpreting this and I were to ask myself, pretend you are inside the painting, what does it feel like? Well, if I'm inside the painting, if I'm one of the audience spectating upon this event, I would think something intense is happening, especially if you hint, hint, look at the emotional reactions of the women on the right, bottom right corner of the painting itself. And if I were to evaluate this, uh, I would ask, well, why do you think other people should see this work? And my answer to that would be, this painting tells a very, very important story in a single image. It gives you all of the information that you need to know, and it is a very dramatic story unfolding. Now, if you know anything about the legend behind the Oath of the Horatii, that's actually a very accurate interpretation of the events going on. So, for the assignment, you were to ask yourself three, or you're going to ask yourself, what are three things that you notice about that painting? And those three things are going to come from the questions on page 3 of the Art Critique PDF. You can either describe it using 3 of the questions from Describe, relate it through the questions from Relate, or so on and so forth, that analyze, interpret, and evaluate. What I do not want is variations on the examples that I gave you, and I do not want single word responses. I need at least complete sentence responses per each thing that you notice. So this is going to be at minimum a small paragraph for your response. But it's all based on what you see and your opinions. So as long as you make an honest attempt to do this assignment, you're not going to lose out on any points. If you have any questions, you know how to find me.